Good evening. Good evening. Rizana. Rizana. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Ilana.
How are you? Can you guys see me?
I think, is your camera maybe turned around?
That's a good idea. I should probably do that, eh?
Yes.
You think, just give me a second, it's gonna go now. You think, you think I've been using social media for so long in my life that I would be knowing exactly how to do these things. But I think the last time I've actually done Instagram Live was probably in
Yeah.
2018. So it's been
Wow.
quite a hot minute. How are
Yes.
you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm so excited.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us. So, guys, we've got Ilana van Schalkwyk joining us this evening. She's doing a part in Real Women, Real Stories. I don't know if Rizana has joined us. I've been
Yeah, I'm
trying.
here.
Are you there, Rizana?
I'm here.
Oh, you are. So
Hi,
I can't
Rosanna.
see Rizana. This is the problems we're having with Instagram at the
Instagram.
moment.
Instagram.
I can see. Oh, I can see both of you and myself. So
Okay,
I can
that's
only
awesome.
see
As long as you can
Rosanna.
hear. Can you see her?
I can see her, yeah.
Okay,
I can't see
awesome,
you though.
awesome. Can't you see me? Oh my
and
goodness.
No,
Everyone's
you're a
where
she's
this
the
blessing.
main. She's the main squeeze.
Yeah.
Oh my word. Oh my word. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, Ilana, so you if you guys know her from TikTok, I watch all her videos and you're absolutely hilarious on
Oh,
TikTok.
oh,
I love it. I was actually
thank
just
you.
showing my husband all your videos. I'm like, this girl is so
Oh,
hilarious.
thank
Everyone loves you on
you.
TikTok.
Oh, that's
But
amazing.
it just happened to come. I just happened to come across some of your videos where you talking about your journey and what you're
Yeah.
also dealing with. So I'm really interested to hear about it. If you don't
Hmm.
know, I also suffer from PCOS, and
Wow.
it's crazy that we're doing this talk now.
Yeah.
I went yesterday for my blood works, and my bloods came back
Wow.
today, and I'm waiting for my doctor to phone me and like go at me, have a go at me because my numbers are through the roof right now. So it's very personal as well to me, this whole thing with PCOS.
Yeah.
So without wasting anyone's time, please introduce yourself. Tell me who you are, what you are about. Yeah.
Well, firstly, thank you so much. I think it's so amazing that there is a platform where women can actually come on and just get a little bit educated and not feel so alone in this whole PCOS journey. I think it's something that we don't speak about enough. And
Yeah.
therefore, so many women are so misinformed, as well as just they don't actually know that they are struggling with these things. And so they're trying to find treatments for all of these amazing, crazy symptoms of PCOS, but they're not actually treating the root of it, which is PCOS. So I think
Yes.
being on a platform like this, just opening up, a room for people to get educated and women to get educated, not feel so alone with this issue is
Yes.
fantastic. So thank you so much for the availability of doing that. My name is Ilana van Schalkwyk. I'm going into my year of being 34, and I have been in the fitness industry going for 16 years now. I'm a strength and
Wow.
conditioning coach. Yes, and I've always been an extremely active sportswoman throughout, obviously primary school, high school, and then my college years. And I've actually only stopped competitive sporting at the age of 30, which is quite late in my life. And so, yeah, my competitive streak has always been there. But I would say PCOS in that has also played a very big role
Mm.
due to obviously the symptoms that we as women face. just in daily life, and that making it even harder when you are competitive sports women, and you having to reach weight goals. Obviously my sport was fighting, so you have to cut weight, and those things are so hard for women with PCOS. So it was very interesting in my journey to be able to figure out, where am I in this fitness journey and health journey, and all of the years of dieting and, figuring out what works for my body. And even though tonight I'm so happy to talk about what works for me, I want everyone to just kind of also know that this is not a one size fits all. What works for me doesn't necessarily work for anyone else. But I think it's a great ballpark to work off of.
But
That
you could
is actually
also give women some insight as to what works for you, and it could be something
Absolutely.
that someone hasn't thought about maybe. So thank you for
Absolutely.
being here and
Yes.
sharing your story.
Thank you. I'm very excited. Thank you
so.
so much.
I was actually going to ask you that. I was actually going to say, like, is it a one fit for all? Like, if we just follow a certain diet or a certain exercise routine, is that going to work for me? Like, I was literally having the argument with my husband saying, I know for the fact if I just work out, it's not going to work for me. I need to
No.
work out and eat properly. So before we continue and actually go into that section, I'm going to ask you, my first question is, so please tell me about how you were diagnosed with PCOS, and how did you find out, what prompted you to check, what is happening with your body?
All right. So, I was very young. I was about 19 years old, 19, 20. And I started, obviously, in my later high school years, I started realizing I had severe acne. I've always been a girl that's been very fatigued. I was like the nap queen. I was always having naps. I couldn't go a day without a 2-3 hour nap. So exhaustion was a real thing, but I just thought, it's part of growing up. My mom had very chronic acne. So I just thought, I'm going through my teenage years. This is very normal, irregular periods, but I also started my periods very later in life, not as young as everyone else did. So I just thought, I maybe have a delayed response because I'm very active. So starting later in your period is quite normal if you are a very, active child. But when I started becoming more concerned was when I gained about 10 kgs. And for me, that was massive. Going from 58 to 68, I thought, oh my goodness, this is not normal. But I'm exercising and I'm dieting. At that time, it was dieting to me, the word. And if I say diet, I mean dry chicken breast and broccoli 3 times a day, training twice a day. And for 3 months, no changes happened. And I said to myself, this is not normal. To the extent of what I'm training, the calorie deficit that I'm training, it wasn't even healthy or sustainable, but I wasn't losing any weight. So I went to my GP and I said to him, listen, I'm struggling. Should I be taking something to even make my appetite less? Because let's be honest, something that I will touch on later is eating disorders with PCOS. And he said to me, gynae straight away. Luckily, he was a fantastic GP. And I went to my gynae, and that's when we made the diagnosis that, I had PCOS, and I was then placed on, your metformin medication. And then I eventually started to lose the weight. But since then, at 20, you're not really educated about PCOS. You're not really, you have no idea what this is. So I kind of also just went on, my normal trying to find different diets that work for my body. And yes, there were some that kind of worked, but only now at my later years have I found the perfect fit for me. So that's where my prognosis happened. It was all about knowing. And then when I was diagnosed, all the other symptoms made sense. It all just came together for me perfectly as to now it makes sense why I've had all these other symptoms, but I was never sure. I just thought either it was normal or I was just struggling with eating disorders and mental health. That was just something that I thought was forever going to be a cross I bear.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Ilana, sorry if I can just ask you one question. How long did
So
that take you to get to that point to know what was going
to
on or
educate
what
myself
worked for
about,
you? Yeah.
well, I was 20. So I
Mm,
would say to find the perfect regime where I am completely happy in my
mm.
skin, I have something that's sustainable, I would say 2 years ago. So
Okay.
Wow.
a long time.
It took a
It's
Yeah.
not,
long time.
it's not a quick fix.
Yeah.
And you know what? Unfortunately, one of the things with PCOS is there's always going to be symptoms that you are never going to completely get rid of. It's always going to be
Mm,
a part of your life, but it's how you can manage and control them
okay.
on a daily basis. And that's all it is.
Thank
Okay. I think,
you.
Yeah.
Susanna, you've got a next question for her.
No, just
Um, sure. So,
just give me 1 second, guys.
okay, no problem, no problem.
No, good. I just want to get my babies out
No,
of the
no,
house.
it's fine.
And mine is barking in the background, so it's normal.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
So,
yeah,
they're probably hearing you guys are probably hearing the dogs
yes,
are hearing
yeah.
each
Very
other.
protective babies.
So I have a question. Um,
Yes.
what have you done to improve your symptoms? I know you've touched on it a little bit, but what have you done? Like, and what were your symptoms? Maybe we should start there.
So obviously,
What were
yeah,
your symptoms?
I think I have quite a few, to be honest.
Okay.
So my symptoms were, and still some, I have still some of them, is obviously chronic fatigue.
Okay.
I can have an 8 to 10 hours sleep and I can wake up and I would feel like I've had an hour rest.
Yeah.
So fatigue and chronic fatigue is definitely one of the symptoms. The second one was
Mm-hmm.
obviously still very bad hormonal skin, excessive hair growth, anxiety, depression, two very big things in my life that I've struggled with for a very long time, daily struggle. Um, I would say, obviously, one of the reasons back then was to maintain my weight and also being in the fitness industry and being someone where my body is kind of the unfortunate symbol of my
Mm,
knowledge has played a very big role, and also why eating disorders with PCOS women in the fitness industry happen so often, because we have
mm,
such a constant pressure to maintain a look, because our look directly correlates with our knowledge, which is unfortunate
yeah.
and so unfair. So I would definitely say the constant maintaining of my weight, which I've now gotten down to a relative T. Binge eating was a very big thing, a very big thing. Sometimes something that, you know what, I still have to be honest with myself. In a lot of ways, it
Mm,
can still occur, even though
Mm.
I am managing my weight very well and I
mm,
am, on an eating plan that works for my body. I still sometimes get those binge days. But I've also kind of allocated it as to where in the month we have
ye-
to also, be a little bit more
yes.
mindful as to where in the month this does happen. And it is quite normal, even for someone that doesn't have
Mm,
PCOS, but it's obviously just very exaggerated for people like us,
mm,
you know. So I think those are and have been my main symptoms over the last, I would say, 12 years or 14 years now.
okay.
Okay.
So you
And
Mm.
then,
so you basically try to just sort of maintain your symptoms through a healthy eating plan and
Yes.
exercise. And
So
obviously,
look, there's
like you
some
mentioned
things,
before, there
yeah,
was some
yeah,
medication
you
involved
know,
as well.
yes. And there is some still chronic medication that I am still
Okay.
on, I did the whole antidepressants. I'm still very much on chronic anxiety medication. Obviously the unfortunate thing with PCOS is that anxiety, depression, OCD, and PTSD, those things are very much linked to PCOS. So
Okay.
one of the sad things is that um, when I get someone into my gym, and I do a trial session with them, and it's their first time, where someone would look at a woman that might be overweight, they would think, this woman sits on the couch and eats 12 donuts. She has no commitment. For me, it was very much getting behind the psyche of that person and why they were so overweight. And a lot of times it had to do with, trauma in their past, depression, anxiety. And the only control that they have in their life is basically what they put in their mouth. And so a lot of the time, personal trainers don't really focus on, those kind of mental aspects, which is a big factor in PCOS. For example, I still thought I'm just a depressed person, and you guys see my TikTok, everyone says, I must be this hilarious, funny person, but there's a part of Ilana that still struggles very much on a daily basis with anxiety and depression. And a lot of the time, the fastest route to go is just to go on a lot of prescription medication and try and deal with that, instead of just trying to deal with the hormones and, finding ways on a daily basis how we can decrease our cortisol and maintain or manage our stress better. So things like meditative Pilates, yoga, journaling, upping your Bible study time. Those are things that I always recommend people, if they don't want to go the antidepressant route right away, which is what I would always suggest, is to find ways how to, control stress and manage it better. That is like the first prize ultimately. And then with that comes good supplementation, obviously your healthy eating and I don't like to use the word diet plan, because I think it can be such a triggering word for us women in PCOS, because there's some women that's been struggling with this for years, and eating disorders has been such a major thing in women with PCOS. I mean, I myself, bulimic when I was 18 years old, right? It was the time where you had to look the best. I was then already starting to pick up all the weight. And, I remember my mom packing me lunch for school. I would have my lunch at school and I would eat it. And my mom, she was an Afrikaans mom, she was spoiling with the lunch boxes. And, it just happened that at school I would eat it, and I would feel so much guilt. And at that age, it breaks my heart looking back at the 18-year-old thinking, you were so beautiful, you just didn't know what was going on with your body, but you didn't feel good enough. And so there's so much I would say to the 18-year-old Ilana, and even the 19 and 20-year-old Ilana now. But those are the things that I and obviously, like I said, which I will touch on just now when we speak about, the more of the lifestyle eating plan, just supplementations there that has helped with hormonal imbalances and things like that.
Thank you so
So
much
would
for
you
that.
say, thank you, Ilana. Would you say your first step would be to go and check blood works out, or what is your first step? For example,
I would
I need to ask you
absolutely,
do something. What is your first
absolutely,
step?
I think, I'm going to just use my best friend as an example. She was also a very active sportswoman. She played very well, very good soccer and hockey. She was always, had a very tiny frame, and she started picking up weight. And there was so many times that I said to her, my friend, I promise you, your symptoms are directly correlated to PCOS. This is why, and she would be so active, and she would eat well. I helped her with meal plans, and she would follow it diligently. She had another coach when I eventually moved to Cape Town, and I looked at how committed and determined she was, and how demotivated she got along the way, because she didn't actually take the step of going to the doctor. And eventually I said to her, please just do me one favor, just go to your gynae and get all the things done that you need to just rule out either your underactive thyroid or PCOS. But I am 100% convinced that it's PCOS. And she phoned me, I think, a few days later after that, and she actually did go to see the doctor. And the gynae actually put her on metformin 3 times a day. I was at that stage only on 500 milligrams of
Yeah.
glucophage. She was then placed on 3 times a day. And yeah, and that was my biggest thing. Go to the gynae. These guys, they're so equipped with knowledge on how to go about it. For me,
Yeah.
it's the best thing is go get your scans done, go get your blood works done, and make sure that's the first thing you rule out when you're feeling those symptoms that I've mentioned, or if you feel like there's any correlating symptoms, go to your gynae and be strict with yourself on that, because I think women are also very slack with gynae visits, and I'm sitting here very guilty of that. I'm not one to always be every year doing my pap smear, and it's so vital because we are so susceptible to cervical cancer and stuff, so we have to be very on it. So I would agree what you did, going for your bloods, perfect, making sure that we know that this is the demon that we're dealing with and what is the solutions and what we're going to do moving forward to kind of, have the battle to win this demon, yeah.
Yeah. Um, in closing, what would you say, because you're coming from a fitness point, and that is
Yeah.
what you deal with. Someone that is starting
Mm.
out, what would you say someone with PCOS starting out? And I know, like you're saying, if the same thing wouldn't work for each person. You've got to find out where you are within what works for you. But what would you say? What would your advice be to anybody out there? Because I'm seeing there are a few people on the talk here that is asking and saying things here. So what would you
Yes.
say is advice to them?
I think the first thing first, before even thinking of anything, is be kind to yourself in this and be
Yeah,
patient with yourself. Okay, first and foremost. All right. Second thing is we have to look at our lifestyle plan. Okay. Again, like I said, we are not saying diets here. We don't want to mention that word because we don't want to put the thought of restriction into our mind. We want to eliminate the thought of restriction. We want to find what is available to us, what should we avoid as PCOS, diagnosed women, and what should we introduce that we are not taking on a daily basis. Now, the first thing for me is to make sure that my clients or people that suffer with PCOS is always on a high protein lifestyle plan. All right. Protein, major thing. Yes.
I'm high
We want to make sure that we're
fiving
eating
you.
the correct. Yes. High five back. Always high protein. And then obviously we want to make sure we want to start with simple things. You remember, thought turns into action, action turns into habit, habit turns into lifestyle. So when we have the thought, we're getting the knowledge. Okay, now let's implement this for the next 21 days. Okay, when we start implementing these things for the next 21 days, it's going to start creating a habit, and you're going to actually start feeling the differences that these small changes on a daily basis makes, and it's going to start literally becoming part of your lifestyle. So things like waking up and making sure that you're drinking green tea morning and afternoon, so lunchtime, 2 cups of green tea a day, always a great add-on if you want to try and lose weight. Then the first thing you want to do is you want to work out your TDEE. Okay, so that's basically your calorie output that you have in a general day, just working, moving about. It's your static energy expenditure.
yeah,
All right. And you want to be 300 calories under that. Now, what you can do is you can actually go onto Google and you can type, it's got a TDEE calculator. And you want to make sure you want to work out, it directs you exactly what to put in. You can work out your TDEE. It will give you a calorie, and you just minus 300 calories off of that. And that's where you want to be if you are in the process of wanting to lose weight. Okay.
yeah,
For me, I obviously started fasting 2 years ago, and I've never felt better in my life. But once again, this is a one size fits all, or not a one size
yeah,
fits
yeah.
all. I could sometimes recommend, if you are someone that loves your breakfast, the most important thing to do when you have PCOS is to start your breakfast with a very high protein meal. If you drink coffee, don't drink your coffee before having your meal, drink it with your meal. Things,
Okay.
because a lot of our things in our body is inflammation. very high free testosterone. So we want to, manage that. We want to manage, just all of the general hormone imbalances. So having to get the perfect supplementation combo is very vital as well. And I think that is also dependent on your symptoms, because some supplements won't be needed for some women and other supplements will be needed for some women. They just as much as how the lifestyle plan is a one fits all, so is the supplementation combination. But I would always say having good things like zinc, your vitamin D, your vitamin Bs, having something that reduces inflammation like turmeric, berberine, your green teas, flaxseed oils. Those are the kind of go-tos for anyone with PCOS. Okay. And then walking, big, yes, 30 to 45 minutes, and weight training. Ladies. I know there's some of y'all sitting in here, but like, oh my goodness, Ilana, like, I don't want to look like Buff Barbie, like, and a lot of women look at my training and they see like, I'm quite a stocky kind of gal, I'm not the smallest, I've got them broad, big shoulders, look like Chuck Norris's daughter, but, that's my sport, and with my sport comes the physique that I carry. But, guys, weight training for women with PCOS is very vital. And then the other thing, like I said, is start looking at how to manage your stress. And that starts with, am I taking time in my day to create a habit of either listening to, if you have, say, for example, anxiety or depression, listening to self-help podcasts, ways to kind of manage that better, journaling, the Pilates and the yoga, some sort of meditation. For some people, it's taking religious time out of their day, whether it's, reading the Bible or the Quran or whatever your religious meditation might be, spending more time on that. That is something that is very, I've seen for me, a very good thing. Like in the morning when I'm driving to work, I have my Bible quiet time where I'm listening to my podcast. And that's a religious thing I try to implement every morning, just to get that, that step of my day in a good, positive way. And then I just feel refreshed. But I can go on a little bit about my journey with intermittent fasting. But I do feel like people should be very careful with just jumping into intermittent fasting. It's not something that I say to someone to start very slow. But for me, in my journey, it's been the best I've ever felt. I've been the most content and the most happy in my own skin in the last 2 years with intermittent fasting by far. Yeah.
Wow. Thanks so much.
I hope that answered your questions.
Absolutely.
I hope that answered it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You've given us so much information. I was like sitting here, which you could see my face. And as you're going on, I'm like,
good.
And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I really relate to some of the things you're saying there. So thanks so much for that. If you could just give us some idea of if anyone out there wants to get hold of you, because I know you offer some service in this with the training and things like that. How can they get hold of you? And you mentioned something about Revive. I don't know if you want to mention what it is. Please tell us.
So I actually have this beautiful box here because this brand has been a saving grace for me with my journey into intermittent fasting and a lot of the symptoms that I feel with PCOS. One of the things, obviously, like I said, I had chronic fatigue. And the only time where I felt like my chronic fatigue was lessened was when I was actually starting to fast. Now, one of the things that Revive does, it's filled with potassium, magnesium, and sodium. Obviously, it's great for hydration because that's one of the things that ultimately we need on a daily basis. But just kind of drinking 3 liters of water doesn't mean that you're at optimal hydration because we need sodium, all right? So because we have sodium in our cells, our body actually absorbs the water much better and it stays in our cells therefore we had optimal hydration. So when I moved into intermittent fasting to help regulating my insulin, my blood glucose, my blood sugar, all of those things, is ultimately why I started fasting. And this has been an absolute game changer for me. It hasn't forced all my headaches, my brain fog, which is also real, guys, in PCOS, brain fog. Very much a real
That's
thing.
what I suffer from that.
Loss of concentration, short-term memory, like you're busy with something and then you'll forget. Very much PCOS.
Wow.
And I think the sad thing is that people don't realize that these small little things is actually connected to PCOS. And when you actually start doing research and you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So I'm not getting Alzheimer's at the age of 34. I'm actually just being a total normal PCOS kind of gal, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, because you know what, guys, it's been so real in the last 2 years for me, even more so. You know, when I'm going about my day and I'm, you know, having 3 things going on doing, and I'm like, I can't even remember this. I just have to say this. This is how real it got. I'm on my phone with my dad, and I'm walking, and I'm having to get to work. And I say to my dad, Dad, I cannot for the life of me find my phone. I have gone up and down this house like 3 times. He's like, Ilana, you speaking to me? I'm like,
Oh
can
my
this get
goodness.
any worse?
The
But
penny
that's how
she
bad it
dropped.
is. And that to me, you know, it's so sad, because if you are not someone that knows that that is literally
Yeah.
in the life of a PCOS girl, you won't understand.
Yeah.
But this product
Yeah.
has been a game changer for me because of my intermittent fasting, and also just keeping my energy levels up. You know, for me, you know, when I do fast and I then eat, you know, I also do 24-hour fasts, and that's got incredible benefits on its own, because when you move into a 13 to a 16-hour fast, now these are for the people that actually do fast already. If you are educated about fasting and you fast already, or you are someone that has actually been looking into fasting, but you just don't know how to get into it, it's something that I truly, truly recommend you try. And I really want to advocate that it's not something that's going to happen overnight, because a lot of people say, how am I going to manage fasting for 16 hours? Please don't think about it like that. I don't want you even thinking about 16 hours to start off with. Just start with the 8-hour eating window and an 8-hour fasting window, and you can slowly work your way up. But what helps with the fasting is that between 13 and 16 hours, you're in a fat burning zone, right? This is where you're shedding the weight, okay? And for us, it's already difficult. And at that point, we're also regulating our insulin. We're also regulating our blood sugar. And that's ultimately what we want, right?
Yeah.
Then you move into your up to a 24-hour fast. Then you go into what's called autophagy. That's when your body naturally starts to eat bad parasites in the body. Okay. So this is obviously not a fast that you would do weekly. You know, this is something that you would do every, you know, second month. You can have a 24-hour fast, maybe, depending on how oiled machine you are at fasting. And then the nice thing about a 40-hour fast is a complete dopamine reset. Okay. And for us that struggle with anxiety and depression because of PCOS, you know, having that 40-hour fast, besides it being such a mentally strengthening time, being a great time if you are someone that's maybe fast for religious reasons, but if you're fasting for health reasons, then a 40-hour reset dopamine fast is absolutely amazing, and it's going to make such beautiful changes in other facets of your life, because it's just going to reset that dopamine charge to the brain and those hormones that we as PCO struggling, you know, sometimes to you know, generate on our own, besides having to drink multiple antidepressants and all of that. So, and then this is obviously where things like Revive come into play when we are doing those longer fasts, or even just a 16-hour fast.
Okay. So how can they get hold of you, or get Revive or something like that? Like I said, this wasn't about the Revive product at all. It's just that
Yes.
I
No,
saw it on
I know.
your
Yeah.
post, and I thought to myself, let me just ask you. about it.
But you know what? I'm glad you brought it up, and I actually had it here because it is such a big part of my journey. And even
Yeah,
if there's people on here that maybe don't struggle with it, it's a great product that I would always suggest to have in your supplementation cupboard. But
yeah,
you can get hold of me on Instagram. I must be honest, I don't really give my number out on TikTok.
yeah.
I'm sure you would understand
Yes,
why.
yes,
I do have a
yes.
very large following on there, and so I'm a little bit sometimes wary on that. Unless it is a genuine client, then I would give out my email address.
Yeah,
But if it is on Instagram, where my community is much smaller and they know me for just my fitness, really, I'm very happy with someone just to send me a DM and say, listen, this is what I'm struggling with. And I can see I do online training, so I can assist you online. And then obviously I'm also based in Cape Town. So if you are in the Cape Town area and you are looking to get more of a one-on-one, I can also assist with that. So yeah,
awesome.
basically just pop me a DM on Instagram. That will be amazing. If you are following me on TikTok and you don't have me on Instagram, follow me on my Instagram page, because this is mostly where I paste my fitness content. I don't really do
Yeah.
too much on TikTok, but I try to at least a little bit on there, yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ilana.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Rizana,
much,
for
Thank you so
joining us
much.
Ilana.
tonight.
No problem.
No, thank you for
Ilana, can I
having
maybe
me.
just ask you one last thing? If you can
Of
leave
course, of
something,
course.
if you can just leave something for women out there who are suffering with PCOS, what
Mm.
inspirational thing would you leave for them?
I'm actually getting like a little bit of a goosey thinking about it, because as a woman that's been struggling with this for such a long time,
Yeah.
and having to be more on the mental health aspect of it, which has been such a great struggle with for me, I want to let women know that struggle with this, that number one, there's actually a bigger community out there that is willing to support you than you actually know, and
Mhm.
that you are not alone in this journey, and that being kind and patient with yourself in this journey is the most important thing, because a lot of the time we get so demotivated because we don't see the results that we want. We are so unhappy in our skin. Our mental health takes over. We feel like our daily functioning is so abnormal. And, I just want you to wake up every single morning, and I want you to say to yourself that today is another day where I get to face the demon, but I'm going to be victorious of it at the end of the day.
Yeah,
And reaching out and asking for help. Don't be shy. Ask people in the community, in the PCOS community. Find a
Yeah.
community close to you, and just to be positive, create positive mindsets, positive habits on a daily basis. And I think the most important thing is to love yourself in every season, because every season has a reason. Even
wow.
in the season where you feel there is no reason because you're feeling so stuck and demotivated, there's some sort of growth happening in there. And through all of the years, I only see the reasons maybe 2, 3 years later. But in that season, there is a reason, and there is growth happening in that season. So be kind, be patient, love yourself through every season, and love your body through every season,
Yeah.
because your body can teach you a
Yeah.
lot of things.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think a lot of women need to be more confident in whatever
Yes.
season they're in with their body and in their skin. Yeah, be happy.
Oh, thank you
Awesome.
so much. Thank you.
You're
Thank you. That's such
welcome.
a great message for
Thanks.
everyone out there.
It was
Thank you
lovely
very
being
much.
here, ladies. Thank
It's
you
a
for also
pleasure.
just being a voice for women. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Thanks
Ilana.
very much,
Thanks,
Ilana.
Anne.
Thanks for joining
Guys,
us.
have an
Thanks,
amazing
guys.
evening.
Have,
Thank you so much.
have a
I
great
really
evening.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yes,
Bye.
you too. Thank you,
Bye.
guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.